so first off, some of the language that we're going to be using with fractions. The numerator is the one that goes on the top, and the denominator goes at the bottom. If you ever need a little memory mechanic to help you remember which one goes at the top and which one goes at the bottom, just think of the letter D in denominator as being similar to that of the D in down. So the denominator goes at the bottom. Right, so now that we know the language, let's look at their function. On the screen in front of you is a half and then a circle cut in half. Here are some more. Can you tell what their fractions might be? Pause the video now if you want to give it a try. Are you starting to see a pattern? Can you start to work out what the job of the numerator and the job of the denominator are? Great job with those. Here's some more where we've kept the denominators the same and just changed the numerator. So I hope you can tell from these that the denominator is always in charge of how many slices our original was cut into, and the numerator is responsible for telling us how many pieces we're interested in. In this case, the orange slices. Here's one more for you to try now. Pause the video if you want to. So here we can see that the original piece, the original pizza, cake, whatever it was cut into 6 slices. And the orange pieces, the ones that we're interested in, there are 2 of them. So that goes at the top. Right, so now we're going to look at some different types of fractions. If I said like fraction, what comes to mind? More specifically, if you look at the fractions next to me, what about these fractions is alike? If you said the denominators, you would be spot on. So like fractions all have denominators that are the same. In a very similar way, but quite opposite, unlike fractions all have denominators that are different. So all of these are unlike fractions. Proper fractions are your more standard fractions, where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Whereas improper fractions are those that have numerators that are bigger than the denominators. Which brings us on nicely to mixed numbers. Now, mixed numbers is a combination of fractions and whole numbers, and you can actually go from improper fractions to mixed numbers by starting with the numerator, in this case 5, and saying, okay, well, how many times can my denominator go into my numerator? And if we have a look at the pictures in this case, we can see that we can make 1 whole chocolate with my 3 pieces, which is indicated by my denominator, and I have 2 left over. Right, and finally we have equivalent fractions. Now, the name gives us a big clue here, because equivalent fractions are equal to each other. So although the individual fractions look different, if I got 3/5 of a chocolate and you got 6/10 of a chocolate, we would both be getting the same amount of chocolate. And you can actually find any number of equivalent fractions just by taking the numerator and the denominator and multiplying them by the same number. So I could times it by 2 on the top and the bottom, and I would get the equivalent fraction. I could times it by 3, by 4, by 5, by 10, by 1,000, and they would always, as long as I'm timesing the top and the bottom by the same number, result in an equivalent fraction. Right, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope it helped. If it did, give it a like and possibly subscribe for some more. There's going to be a lot of videos in the fraction series and then many other topics to come.